Hello, YouTube. It's been 100+ days of the Trump administration. And as one who voted for President Trump, I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts and some commentary, maybe a short digest of the first 100+ days of the Trump administration. But fam, before I do that, I just want to tell you, American citizens, I just want to tell you, everyday people that are out there working, trying to make ends meet, supporting a family, maybe supporting some other loved ones, working hard every day on that grind, trying to make a better life for yourself, your family, and others. We live in what I would say, in my opinion, is the most critical moment in the recorded history of this planet. And as divine creations of Almighty God, we are called upon in this critical moment, and in any critical moment, we are called upon to do several things. And so I want to tell you about just a few of them before we begin our discussion. The first one is, fam, in the midst of chaos, in the midst of travail, in the midst of some very dark times, we are called by our divine creator to live our very best lives in those moments. And part of living our very best life is being the very best we can one to another. And that includes for you, for me, for everyone out there who's living the life that I just described. You're trying to make ends meet. You're supporting your family, and maybe an extended family of loved ones who are not in the best positions right now. And it's important in these moments when you may feel like you don't matter. It's so important, fam, for you to never forget. And I'm speaking to each and every one of you out there who's been kind enough to offer me a few moments of your day. I'm telling you to never forget, not even for a nanosecond, that you matter. Your voice matters. Your thoughts matter. Your actions matter. Why? Just know, fam, at this most critical point in human history, your kindness to your neighbor, your prayers for the human family, your prayers for your loved ones, your actions of offering a smile to someone you pass going in and out of the store, all of those matter. They have weight. They have mass. And if we do that, if we focus on that, that mass will become critical mass. It can have impact. It can have great effect on what is happening in the world today. It can have a kinetic effect. Thoughts matter. Actions matter. You matter. So just know that, fam. Just know that. Just know your voice matters. Your voice counts. You count. And finally, we cannot for not one moment give in to fear, because fear is the real enemy. Of course, there are other forces arrayed against humanity at this moment, forces that are deadly, that are dark. But the biggest enemy of all is fear. And so we can't give in to fear. We've got to focus on what is right, what is just, what reflects the divine spark within us all. And by doing that, we will defeat fear, because fear requires attention. If we don't give it attention, if we act wisely, fear will have no room to abide within our being, within our consciousness, within our environment. So just want to remind you, fam, of how special each and every one of you are, how we matter, how we can have great impact on the decisions being made by a government that is working against us. So I just want to remind you of that before I just jump off into a short digest of the first 100 plus days of the Trump administration. Allow me to give you some background first. I never voted for, I never supported Donald Trump until this last election. But when I witnessed the lawfare conducted against Donald Trump, when I witnessed a Justice Department weaponizing each and every law they could in order to stop this man from running for president, and going further in order to stop this man from living a free life, trying to put this man in jail on a bunch of trumped up charges, forgive the pun, that had no legal validity at all. They were unsubstantial charges. And that has now been proven through the appellate process. So I sensed, or my perception of this lawfare that was conducted against Trump was similar to me of a lynch mob, a mob focused on only one thing: destroying a person, and using underhanded tactics to do so. And so I lost great respect for the Democratic Party and for President Biden especially, because President Biden boasted so much about how easily he could defeat Donald Trump. And so if you could do that, President Biden, do that on the field of ideas. Don't do that by adopting illegal, underhanded tactics to destroy the man. I found that to be quite distasteful and insulting to me. And my final thought was that I don't care who it is, but if I perceive someone as being pursued by a lynch mob, I'm standing with that person, regardless of who they are, not because so much I support them, but because I come against any kind of lynch mob activity. Excuse me. So that's the reason why I became a Trump supporter. And one last word about support, fam. Support to me doesn't mean blind support. Support to me means that you support a cause, you support an individual, you support an organization. But blind support means that you do that at all costs. I do not offer blind support to anyone. What I do offer is support where I tell you, or I let you know when I think you're right, and I let you know that I don't support you when you're wrong. And so now we come to the first 100 days of the Trump administration. And to keep this brief, fam, I find that the Trump administration for the first 50 days was on point, did a lot of good things. But the last 40 days especially, President Trump has made several missteps, several errors, several grievous errors that could put his whole presidency in jeopardy. And so I want to focus on that by talking a little bit about the word speed. You know, when we talk about sports, especially in the NFL, you can hear them oftentimes utter a phrase that says speed kills. In other words, a speedy receiver or a speedy defense corner or defensive safety, by having excess speed, by having speed to burn, you can cover a lot of ground and you can be very effective, whether you're on offense or defense. And that is what President Trump had when he first started. He had speed. And when you have speed, fam, and your enemies are trying to focus on you, it's difficult to hit a moving target. And so President Trump acted swiftly to initiate the America First agenda when he first came into office. He was able to get a lot of things initiated, to get a lot of things in place. And although his enemies were trying so hard to stop him, he couldn't, because he was moving so quickly that there was no time for his opposition to coalesce against him. And therefore he was effective. And had he continued on that same pace, acting with wisdom, of course, not abandoning common sense and good analytics, he could have been successful. But what happened in the Ukraine issue, in my view, is that the president allowed himself to get distracted. He allowed too many voices in his ear, some voices of those close around him, who, although they are close around the president, they are his enemies. They are snakes, to put it bluntly. And they're really against the president's agenda. They do not want the war to stop. So therefore, they ignore the clear evidence that is in place now, indicating that the war, as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned, is over. In other words, Ukraine not only has lost, there is no chance that they'll win. And in the meantime, the United States has blown close to $1/3 trillion, fam. Let me repeat that. Close to over $1/3 trillion, 300 and something billion, in this rat hole that has offered no return on investment at all. So the president indicated in his campaign and indicated in his opening remarks when he assumed the presidency that he was going to act swiftly. And he took right steps, fam. But again, he allowed himself to get bogged down. He allowed himself to lose his biggest asset, and that's speed. And fam, you know, the quickest way to heal, if you want to heal quickly, if you don't have time to allow for a long healing process, you've got to just rip off the Band-Aid, pour some antiseptic on it, and keep it moving. And that's exactly what the president did not do on this Ukraine issue. And now it's bogged his whole presidency down. Consider this, fam. Had the president resolved the Ukraine issue quickly, simply by saying, regardless of what you think of me, this is Joe Biden's war. I am stopping all arms, all intelligence, all reconnaissance information to Ukraine today. Europe, Ukraine, if you want to continue to fight, you can do that. But American support is over. Had the president done that, he would have restored the confidence of his base. He would have had the wind beneath his wings when he moved to the tariffs. He would have had more support, more time to explain his actions to the public, and he would have had a honeymoon of sorts in order to get his tariff project off the ground. But instead, the president dithered when it came to Ukraine. He kept being indecisive, listening to one person in the left ear, another person in his right ear. He became indecisive and then spread himself too thin by launching the tariff uh, uh, initiative. And as a consequence, he had to withdraw the tariff initiative. He got totally embarrassed. And also, his Ukraine initiative is losing steam. And so it's, as I said, fam, I think the president's last 40 days have been somewhat of a disaster. And if he doesn't work quickly, if he doesn't act quickly to deal with this situation in a firm, decisive, calm leadership, deliberate leadership manner, his whole presidency will be in jeopardy because he will have embarrassed himself on the world stage. He will look weak and indecisive, and therefore his leadership ability will be hamstrung. And so it's vital, it's critical for the president now to go back to speed, for the president now to issue orders regardless of who's hurt, whose feelings may be hurt. But if he wants to cleave to and maintain allegiance to his America First agenda, it's absolutely imperative that he do these. If he doesn't perform his actions, as I said, fam, and I'm saying this as a Trump supporter, if he doesn't do these things, his entire presidency will be in jeopardy. And why do I say this? I say this because the president doesn't have 4 years, fam. Even though he's in office for 4 years, he only has roughly 18 months before we begin to run up to the midterm elections. And if he continues to execute his presidency in this manner, it's going to give momentum to the Democrats to possibly retake the House. And if the Democrats retake the House 2 years from now, the final 2 years of his presidency will be nothing but dispute. It will be nothing but two people on the bridge of the American ship of state vying for control, which means that the American ship of state will flounder. It will go nowhere. It will get nothing done. And the biggest recipients of that kind of governmental and political inaction will be you and I, the everyday American citizens, who will continue to have our standard of living lowered, who will continue to have the economy act not in our favor. And so that's why it's important for the president to get back on track, to be the leader that we think he can be. And of course, the president is going to make mistakes. I understand that. And of course, the president is not going to at all times be the leader we want him to be. But of all times, this is one moment where he can't afford to fail. And so that's what I think of the first 100 days of the Trump administration. Did a good job the first 40 to 60 days, but the last 40 days have been a disaster. And it's critically important that the president address these by taking control, taking firm control of the controls of the American ship of state and acting accordingly. And that's how I see these first 100 days. And as I said before, fam, the president is not served well by his supporters if they give him blind support. If they just support him regardless of what he does, whether it's intelligent, whether it's wise, whether it's unwise or stupid, that's not real support in my view. What that is, that's the kind of like the thinking of a cult type a demographic. What I offer to the president is support but support in the fact that I will always express to the president and about the president exactly what I see the truth to be, based on an analysis of the facts, based on an analysis of the situation on the ground, and based on an analysis of what the president indicated he would do in his campaign, the promises he made. So we're at a critical point, as I said, fam, at the beginning of this discussion, and within the next 4 weeks, the remainder of the presidency's of the president's administration will be determined, whether it's going to be good, whether it's going to be just meandering, dithering, going from right to left, accomplishing nothing, or whether it's going to be dynamic and world changing. We're going to see that within the next 4 weeks for sure. Now, I also want to touch on another thing, fam, and that's directly related to some of what we're talking about right now. And it's a fact, fam, that there's no way, if you look at the history of the world, if you look at the history of empires, there's no way that an empire can sustain itself if it has to deal with enemies on the inside and enemies on the outside. And right now, it's my sense, it's my view, that the biggest enemies of the United States, other than fear, which is the biggest enemies of all humankind, but the biggest enemies facing the United States right now are enemies inside of the United States. And I want to focus on one of those enemies at this moment. And in doing that, I want to read something to you. Now, fam, just think about if you're a retired person and you worked hard all your life, you've saved up a certain amount of money, you own maybe a home, a couple homes. You've worked real hard, not only to have a good life for yourself, a high standard of living for your family, for your kids, but you've also worked hard to set aside something for those kids to have a financial and a cultural legacy when you leave here. And so that would be what we would call, or what I would call, your family jewels, in a sense, that you not only forge your family, your kids, a good education, raise them up well, but you're also going to be in a position that when you leave here, you're going to have a financial legacy for your family. That's a job well done. Well, as far as the United States family goes, our family jewels, our legacy, is the United States Constitution and the United States Bill of Rights. And right now, fam, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, is under tremendous assault. And I just want to read something to you. This is the First Amendment of the Constitution. And it says, Congress shall make no law respecting establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievance. I want to read that again. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Fam, that means Congress, which is the lawmaking body of the three-tiered system we have, or the tripart system we have in the United States, which is executive, legislative, and judicial. Congress is the one who makes the law. And Congress This amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. That means that you today, fam, should you decide to do so, you could go out and start your own religion. And not only can Congress not stop you from doing that, they can't stop you from any practices related to that religion. Of course, that religion cannot break the law. You cannot sacrifice humans or anything like that. But in all practical circumstances, Congress is prohibited from restricting establishment of religion or religious practice. Secondly, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Fam, that means right there that the United States founding fathers are telling us right now, from roughly 200 years ago, that there is no such thing as hate speech. There can be no such thing as hate speech according to the First Amendment. And freedom of speech, fam, means the freedom to insult. It means the freedom to call names. It means the freedom to praise. It means the freedom to critique. It means I have the freedom to call you a Frankenstein-looking monster, or I have the freedom to call you as beautiful as Mona Lisa. There are no, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. Now, of course, as it's been said many times before, I can't run into a crowded theater and yell fire. Of course I can't do that. But I also have the right I cannot be prohibited from saying that I object to an 11-year-old boy saying that he knows that he is supposed to be an 11-year-old girl, and I object to laws being made saying that I cannot criticize that I must respect that. So even though the young boy may think he's right, I think that the young boy has a mental impairment. So how can Congress or anyone else legislate a law that's saying that I must respect what I think is a mental ailment coming from? How come I cannot criticize that? So the freedom of speech is under direct assault. And as I said, fam, if you look at the history of this world, look at the history of empires, no empire can survive if it's trying to deal with frontal assaults, such as the United States is now doing with these overseas wars in the Middle East, wars in Ukraine, and then threatening war against China. You cannot, if you're an empire, or even if you're just an individual entity, you can't deal with barbarians at your front door, fam. At the same time, you got people in your basement fomenting revolution. You can't fight internal and external enemies and be successful. And so that's what I'm saying. And as we move forward, we're going to go through, fam, each one of the 10 amendments to the Constitution. We're going to kind of like put in full profile the thoughts, the thrust that the founding fathers had when they established this nation, as opposed to where we're going right now. And as I said, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they're the very soul of this country. They are our family jewels. And if we can't proceed as a nation based, fully founded, fully with our feet fully on those founding principles, there's no way we can survive. And so we're gonna deal with the Second Amendment and the third going forward through this week. And as I close, I just want to say that that's going to be the format. when I begin to come to you daily, I want to talk about some of the issues that are that are critical, that are facing humanity today. More specifically, humanity as defined by as the citizens of the United States, and also to take one day a week, fam, to offer some commentary on what it means to learn how to live alone. Uh, I just lost my wife February 4th, and I'm learning how to live alone, learning how to live a new normal. And I'm learning so many new things. And so I would like to share that with you at least one day a week, kind of like a running blog of how I'm learning how to live alone, how I am adjusting to it, some of my thoughts, and some of my thanks to the level of support that I've been given, and perhaps by doing that I could be beneficial to others who have sustained such great loss as losing a loved one, whether it be a parent, a spouse, a child, or a dear friend, or anything in that category. So that's what our agenda will be going forward. So today's Wednesday. Tomorrow, again, I just want to outline some things about the Bill of Rights related to current events. And Friday, I'll talk about living a new normal, dealing with a loss. And so I appreciate everyone who's been gracious enough to allow me a few moments to express my thoughts on events that are critical to us at this moment. And I trust that you all will have a great day. God bless you all. I'm just an old man. I got a few questions, and listening to you and talking to you, I think maybe we can come up with a few answers. My name is John. I'm out.